Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we are going to navigate gut health. This is the topic that, as much as I can, I will continue to speak about it because I think that the majority of people walking the earth, especially here in our country, have some type of gut issue. In a moment, I'll dive into what is gut health. That's one of the challenges, though, because often people do not know how to define it and do not know if it is an issue they're having. Most of the time, people think, well, I'm not bloated, I don't have gut issues, or I'm not burping, I don't have gut issues. And I'm going to walk you down a whole different group of symptoms that you've potentially never even correlated to, meaning that you have some type of gut issues. With that being said, I'll also say this. So as many of you know, some might use the word that say that I'm a gut expert. And I don't know that I like using that word around anything. Reason being is that I feel like when you call yourself an expert, you're no longer open to learning, and I am definitely open to learning. This has been an entire learning journey for me, for my personal health and for my patients. And I will say this, at this point in my career, this is something that we have dialed in, and it wasn't by mistake and it wasn't by happenstance. This took a lot of hard work, a lot of trial and error. And so at this point, I'm very fortunate. I get an opportunity to go around the country and teach other doctors. Doctors may be listening to this right now that want to learn how to help maybe their own gut, but also their patients' guts and their overall health and vitality. Even though I'm going to say gut probably 25 more times today before this podcast is done, think of gut as just overall health, frankly, because it's going to have an impact on our overall health as human beings. We've heard of the gut-brain connection. We hear everything goes back to the gut, and all of those things are absolutely crystal clear and true. And I'm going to walk you down the path to help you better understand if it is something that you have that you probably should address, and where do you start? So today's podcast is gut health. Where do you start? All right, with that being said, keep doing your thing, keep sharing out, keep spreading the love. Whatever you all are doing, it's working. We're reaching more people, which is great. Everything that you do, whether you leave comments or you do like a 5-star review, all of those things do benefit. We appreciate that those of you have done it already. For those of you an opportunity to just go on your, like on your Spotify, whatever it is, and give us a good rating, that would be awesome as well. All right, let's just dive right in. Where do you start when it comes to gut health? So I'm going to get over the tough talk right away because I think this is very important for us to understand and to hear, frankly. And that's this. When it comes to gut health, really, when it comes to your overall health, stop looking for the easy and the cheap. Those two things will get you in a lot of trouble when it comes to your health. And I'm telling you from experience, easy and cheap typically means that you're pushing it down the road, and you will often lose faith in systems, in people, in doctors, in the human body, in the power for the body to heal itself when you try to always go easy and cheap. I'm not saying everything has to be expensive. In fact, I'm going to map out a couple different routes for you today if you're looking to improve your gut health. And oftentimes, you can do things relatively inexpensive. And often that just means it might take a little more time to do so, but it's doable. So with that being said, let's dive in. Let's just start with the conversation of what is gut health? And I think right here is where a lot of people miss out on the opportunity to dive after and go right after the root cause, because so often we don't think of certain things as being related to our gut. One that comes right to mind right away is in our country, we have probably over I think it's 700,000. You can check me on those numbers. 700,000 people per year are getting their gallbladders removed. Folks, that's a gut issue. And all those people, the majority of them will say that they didn't have a gut issue. They just had to have their gallbladder removed. But 100%, that is part of your digestive system. And then, so that's just a good example where people knew that it was a gut issue and they listened to a podcast like this and they know where to start. And with the follow through here, I'm going to give you the map of how to heal your gut today as well. Then we would probably see people saving their gallbladders in the big picture here. All right, let's go through a couple things. So some of the obvious things, or maybe not so obvious: heartburn, acid reflux, and indigestion, all are gut issues. Bloating and burping, those were kind of the obvious ones. Constipation, diarrhea, gas, all of these are gut issues. Leaky gut, a bunch of names here: leaky gut, diverticulitis, colitis, IBS, IBD, Crohn's, all of those names, every name that you can come up with, if something being colitis being diagnosed in your gut, basically from your rib cage down to your pelvis, anywhere in there. If you've been diagnosed with something, for the most part, that's gut issue. Now we're going to move around here. Acne, gut issue, skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, all of these conditions when it comes to the skin, these are all inside out conditions, folks. And I know that you've heard that before, but the challenge here is that if a person with psoriasis or eczema doesn't have gas and bloating, they think that, man, well, my eczema, psoriasis is not a gut issue. And I'll tell you the truth is that it is. Almost always it is. And your skin is a reflection of what's going on in the inside of your body. And it's just going on the outside. You have a microbiome in your side of your gut, and you have a microbiome on top of your skin. And they're indicative. And I'll tell you, I know some of the healthiest people I know have really taken care of themselves, and they have skin challenges. It just means there's still another layer, still another push that needs to happen when it comes to their gut health. All right, hormones. These things, a lot of people don't think of their hormones related to their gut health, but it certainly is, especially when it comes to things like anxiety and depression. Folks, 100% these are gut-related issues. We often can map it back where the gut went wrong, and the next thing you know, we saw down the road, we saw things like anxiety come, things like depression. Why? Because a lot of the neurotransmitters, things like serotonin and stuff like that, they're often birthed in the gut and then sent to the brain to mature. So we need those neurotransmitters, and the challenge is if the gut's messed up, you don't have them, and then we start to experience imbalances like anxiousness, like depression. And again, the challenge here, and this is why I'm bringing this, we're going to kind of hammer this part of it home, like what is gut related? Everything I've mentioned so far is gut related. And if you know someone out there that has anxiety, that has depression, get them to listen to this, because it is not just as simple as, oh, I'm going to take gluten out for a couple of days, or I took some Rolaids or Tums or something like that, and I don't have any gut issues. That's not my problem. And yet, we find almost always fix the gut, we fix the life. And so I'm going to tell you right now, this is from a person who, for me, 40 years of my life, I walked around basically with gut issues, never defining it as a gut issue, so never being able to get to the root cause and fixing it. So we see a lot of things that happen. You have long-standing gut issues, oftentimes, 50% of the times, we see it lean into things like adrenal fatigue, adrenal dysfunction, where you're just absolutely exhausted. And you got to go back now and heal both of these things. That happened to be my personal case. Gallbladder issues, we already mentioned that. Candida, adrenal fatigue, these are all rooted with some type of gut issues. And then even situations where you wouldn't even think this is correlated. When I listen to people or I hear people say things like, well, I don't eat red meat anymore. Every time I eat it, it doesn't make me feel good. Therefore, it must not be good for me. Folks, that's a gut issue. That means you don't have the capacity to break down red meat. That's a problem. Every human being should have the capacity to break down red meat. It shouldn't make us feel awful. Yet I see a lot of people who say, well, I cut it out thinking it's a real healthy thing to do because it doesn't make them feel good. And that just tells us you can't break the food down. You don't have the power. You don't have the capacity to break those incredible nutrients down and then absorb them. So that's some of the gut-related symptoms, I would say. Now let's talk about some of the causes. And this is where it gets interesting. And I think it's important that we pay attention to these causes, because most of the time there's not a one-to-one. It's not like a hammer and nail, or hammer and thumb, I should say. You have a hammer in one hand, you go to strike the nail, you miss and hit your thumb. You're like, right there, I know what caused this. I swung a hammer, I hit my thumb. That's the problem. That's usually not how it works when it comes to your gut. Usually it's a prolonged, long period of time of a consistent downregulation of gut function, where it's beat down after beat down. Remember this, that our bodies are absolutely incredible. They are self-healing, self-regulating mechanisms. So they were designed to heal. So even though most of us have absolutely tortured our bodies inside and out for the majority of our lives, we put toxins, we put alcohol, we put drugs in there, we put all kinds of stuff into our bodies thinking no big deal, I'm just going to wake up the next day and my body's going to do all the work and take care of it. And oftentimes we get away with it until we don't. There's a slow degradation of the microbiome. There's a slow degradation, a down regulating of how well our body can handle these things. So time often works against us because it's a slow bleeding. It's a slow down regulation. Now I'm gonna list off a bunch of the things that started it for most of us. And it doesn't take repetitiveness in these. And I'll make a couple comments along the way. Number one is stress. That's a big one. And this is the one that probably is the most overlooked. And if you have stress as your primary cause of downregulation of your overall health, the challenge is when you go to doctors, no one's going to deal with it. No one's going to correlate the fact that your stress is inhibiting your body from breaking down foods properly and absorbing your nutrients, and you're burning up and you're using cortisol all day long. One of the things that I also didn't mention about gut health, if you're out there, if you're one of the people out there that has chronic issues with the inability to lose weight, even though you've changed your diet a bunch, more often than not, you have chronic gut issues, could be buildup of candida, etc. All right, I'm going to keep rolling here. So causes, stress. And I think, so that's like number one, but it's tied for number one. I still think the number one reason most people, especially in our country, have gut issues, which included myself, was the use of antibiotics. I'm not even going to say the overuse, because you could use one round at any point in your life that can wipe out a colony in your gut, a colony of bacteria that had a particular role, and now that role will not be done anymore because you wiped it out. For some people, I'll bring you down a rabbit hole for a second. Let's just say you took a round of antibiotics, regardless of your reason. Doc, I had to do it. Cool. All right, you had to do it. And let's just say you took something like doxycycline, which is kind of a broad, shotgun approach, very common broad spectrum antibiotic. You took one round 10 years ago, and you wiped out a type of friendly bacteria called Akkermansia. Akkermansia is a bacteria that it leads to making things called GLPs. I'm bringing this particular one up for a very specific reason. If you wiped out that one using doxycycline and wiped that one up, now you have a propensity for obesity and gaining weight. And you can run laps around the track as many times as you want and change up your diet. But because your body has the inability to make these GLPs, these nutrients, these amino acids that our body needs in order to regulate appetite, now we're deficient because of that one round. So what I'm saying, folks, there are possibilities that one round years ago was all you needed to disrupt your microbiome. Now, have many of us taken way more rounds than one? Yeah, I'm in that category. I grew up on antibiotics. I grew up on, like many of you, my mom did everything she could. If I would get these chronic earaches, my mom would bring me to the doctor. Doctor would say, put them on this round of antibiotics. I'd take them. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they didn't. It's very common. I'd go on 2 or 3 rounds per year, and I probably did this for a decade. And I'm not the only one who did this. And then, therefore, my gut always being imbalanced through the course of my life. So I had things like asthma and allergies and acne, and those are all related to an imbalance in the gut health. So I'm going to roll forward here. Causes. Stress, number one. Well, it's like tied for that and antibiotics. I think those two are up there. Alcohol is huge. It breaks down the microbiome. It kills the microbiome. And I'm going to get back to the microbiome in a moment here, why we rarely correlate things like alcohol, why things like stress and antibiotics are rarely ever correlated to breaking down your microbiome. We'll get that in just a moment. Parasites, another huge one. I think nowadays people hear more and more that there are parasites out there, or that we all probably have them, and they're absolutely right. We all have parasites. Some are creating damage, some are not. They are opportunistic. So if they get an opportunity to take over another colony, another section of your gut health, or different tissues or different organs in your body, they will. We need a strong gut to make sure that they are basically kept in check. So parasites are a big part of the gut issues. Food sensitivities, food allergies. Allergies probably isn't the right word. Sensitivities is. This gets a little tricky, but understand that we have foods that you're eating now because of your gut issues. You have things like leaky gut, and as a result of it, you're constantly inflaming your system. And this is breaking down your gut repetitively. So now I'm listening to all of this. It's kind of like a dark story. So I'm gonna bring some light to this, because I don't want you to walk away like, man, I'm dying. My gut's everyone has a gut issue. Everyone does have a gut issue. And the reason I'm bringing this to you, because I will tell you this, I'm on the other side of it. And when you get your gut right, everything that you thought you should feel like your brain working right, even though you're in your 50s, your body feeling good, you'll be able to put some muscle back on your body, stay lean. All of these things are available when you take care of your gut. And when they're not, it's often when you feel like you are running uphill and you keep saying things like, man, I'm doing everything. It's just nothing's really working. I should feel better than I do. More often than not, that means you still have a gut issue. And it can get a little tricky. And I'm going to get to the map of how you fix it in just a moment here. So what else? There's birth control pills. All ladies out there, you might be currently on a birth control pill. You can look this up yourselves, but birth control pills break down the microbiome. So it's a slow go. And that's the biggest challenge with antibiotics and alcohol and birth control and glyphosate, which we get from like gluten and all that kind of stuff. These chemicals, they don't have the effect of a hammer on your thumb. They have these slow death by 1,000 cuts. I see now clinically, and I would have never known this until I started to do this long enough, that it typically, a round of antibiotics, you usually don't see the damage show up in symptoms till about 6 or 8 weeks out. And what I'll see is patients, their diets tend to change. They move away from animal proteins. They start to gain weight because they're eating more carbohydrates, simply because they broke down the way that their gut digests their foods and assimilates their food. And then slowly but surely, over that 4, 6, 8 weeks, after taking one simple round of antibiotics, we start to see the dietary changes and the body mechanics change. Not the body mechanics, the metabolic system change. And now all of a sudden we don't have a balanced microbiome, and we see the weight gain. We see the candidas build up and all of the other things that go along with that. Gluten, sugar, glyphosate, all of those things. So that short list right there, and the list gets a lot longer, but all of those: stress, antibiotics, alcohol, parasites, food sensitivities, birth control, glyphosate, gluten, sugar, all of these can cause, unfortunately, a gut issue. Now let's talk about how to heal it. Then I'll talk about the testing as well. All right, so here's how we heal it. I'm going to map this out. And first thing I'm going to tell you is that what you really should do, and again, this is why you do not want to seek easy and cheap. There's a journey here. This is, if I send one message today, that's the message I want you to get. There's a journey to healing your gut. It took me a decade to figure that out, that journey. And now I get to go around the country and speak and teach doctors how to do it and map it out specifically. How long does it really take to heal your gut? Symptomatically, you can start getting better within days. Literally within days, you can symptomatically do it. But to heal your gut, an absolute minimum of 90 days, most likely to a year. If you don't like hearing that, sorry to hear that. You can slide right here or whatever, swipe right, shut off the podcast, go somewhere else. But if you're seeking something that is a quick fix for your gut, you will continue to seek it. And I will tell you, be very careful when you do that, because what happens, this is what it looks like. Someone will hear, well, I hear that berberine is really good for your gut health. True, it is. Or I hear maybe Spanish black radish, or I'll use a little bit of oregano oil. And these are all things that can be wonderful tools for your gut. And you tried them, but you didn't do the rest of the process. I'm going to map out to you 4 steps of the process. So what happens, you don't do the other 4 steps. You don't the 3 or 4 other steps. You just tried these couple little things. And then when you circle back and be like, well, they didn't work. Well, you didn't give them a chance to work. And that's why I would tell you, listen, I wish I had a magic wand. I wish there was hey, let me just fix your gut health overnight. It doesn't work that way. We are live, living organisms. But here's the good news. Your body wants to be healthy. You are a self-healing, self-regulating machine. The power that made the body heals the body. And if you get out of the way, meaning you remove the interferences and you allow your body to do some healing, best days are ahead of you. All right, so let's talk about healing up. I'm going to walk you through what I call the 4 R's. R meaning there's 4 different ones. The first one is R1. Second one is R2. So it's remove. We got to replace, repair, and then rebalance. Now I'm going to give you a couple comments in all 4 of these. And then what I'd say in the big picture, go find a practitioner. I would love to help you. Either myself or someone on my team can help you. We are all geared and ready to rock and roll and help you through this journey, this process. We know exactly what we're doing. And even if you can't get to me, if say my schedule's too busy, call. I have an incredible crew. I have a great clinician that's working with me now, and she can handle everything that I'm talking about here today. For some reason, I can't handle the patient load. Anyways, that being said, so R1 is this. You got to remove all the bad guys, folks. That means most likely you're going to be on some level of an elimination diet for an extended period of time. Not a week, not a couple of days, not 2 weeks, minimum of 30 days. And you're going to have to eliminate all the crap that doesn't serve you, all the processed foods. Most likely, you're going to have to get rid of even some of the good foods. And that's why sometimes having food sensitivity testing, I'll talk about testing in just a moment, is good. If you have parasites, you're going to have to eliminate those as well. So the first phase is all the bad stuff has to go. My analogy would be you go out, we're trying to basically nurture and grow a garden so we can grow good, veggies or fruits. Think of that as the microbiome. You go in your backyard right now and you look at your garden and there's like old rusty bikes and paint cans and all that crap is sitting in there. All that has to go. We can't just throw probiotics on top of that. We got to clean that out and then nurture the soil. So whatever the bad habits in your own life, even if they're not habits, yes, I'm talking about that little bit of ice cream at night. Yes, it is not going to be easy. The process in collective thought is simple, but I'm not going to tell you that it's easy. I tell you that it's worth it 1,000%. If you ask yourself right now, what is the best version of me worth? I know the answer to that. It's priceless. And this doesn't cost gazillions of dollars. This will take some energy, effort, and a little bit of grit from you. So number one, and if anybody tells you that you do not have to change your diet to some level of extreme and you will fix your gut, they are lying to you. They have never gone through this process and they're probably stealing your money. And I'm telling you, I've tried both ways. I've tried to be soft. I've tried to be, you can keep your blah, blah, blah in there. No, you're going to have to eliminate. And that's why working one-on-one with a practitioner to really understand your situation becomes so, so important. All right. Number two. So R1, you got to remove. R2, we got to replace. And this is where there's a lot of nutrients when our guts get out of balance, our diets are out of balance, we're taking in chemicals, we become deficient. Sometimes things like B vitamins and zinc, those are some of the primaries. So we're going to replace some of the nutrients that have been missing because we've had poor nutrition for long periods of time. And we have bad habits. Maybe you drink alcohol. Maybe you drink a lot of coffee. Maybe you drink sodas. Remember, maybe you eat gluten still. Maybe you're still eating bread, muffins, pastas, crackers. Remember, they have anti-nutrients in them. They rob you of your nutrients. So to walk around thinking that you have all the nutrients you need, nope, not until we eliminate the bad guys that are stealing from you. So number one, we got to remove everything, all the bad guys. Number two, we got to replace. Number three, this is where the rubber hits the road. We have to repair. It means we have to repair the microbiome. We have to repair the leaky gut. We have to repair all the things that have been damaged. And some of those, that looks like Crohn's, that looks like diverticulitis, that looks like the ulcers. All those things have to be repaired. It's not necessarily where we start, but those all have to repair. And then the fourth part is this. And there's a very specific process for those folks. And again, what I would say to you is this, that get with a practitioner. We'd love to work with you. Get with a practitioner and just get ready to hunker down. It is so worth getting to the other side and finding the best version, the one that is mentally clear. You have energy. You sleep through the night. You get up and you're actually ready to go. You're not dying or crawling over to your coffee pot. You're not bloated all the time. You're not swollen all the time. You feel good. You're ready to rip into whatever life has to offer you because your body's working better. And this is the potential that our creators gave us. Don't make the mistake. We're not supposed to be worn out. It's not an age thing. It is, what do we do with our age? What do we do with the vessel that we've been given along the way? And the truth is, most of our vessels are a little polluted. So we got to get back to work. Remember, we have to restore this microbiome. There's very specific steps, very specific nutrients, very specific herbs that we use, very specific types of diets. And that's why I would say, get with a practitioner that has experience from A to Z here, really from R1 to R4. And R4 is not to be overlooked. So R1, remember, remove. R2, we're going to replace. R3, we're going to repair all the damage that's been done. And R4 is rebalance the lifestyle. This probably is the most overlooked one because it seems so simple. I'm going to give you a simple example of why this is overlooked and why this perpetually keeps us in a bad situation with our gut health. So many of you understand this concept that we have two parts of our nervous system, the sympathetic dominance and parasympathetic. And sympathetic dominance is the energy you and I are using right now. You're listening to this, you're kind of dialed in. I'm talking a lot right now. So that is kind of the go, go, go. We often refer to this as fight or flight. And we release a certain amount of chemicals and hormones that go along with that. And then there's certain chemicals and hormones that we do not release. That, for example, is when we shift from sympathetic over to parasympathetic activity. That is rest and digest. And that is what it's always been known. Go, go, go. And parasympathetic activity means rest and digest. That means in that mode, when we are calm and we're not driving down the road trying to eat, we're not sitting on the phone eating, sitting in front of our computer eating. We prepare our body to be able to be present with the food that's coming in, and then the body releases the proper digestive enzymes, the proper acids to help break our food down so we can then assimilate it and uptake it as nutrients. If we don't, we create a little bit more mindfulness to how we go about it. So I'm in my 50s. So I grew up, and many of you listening to this, well, I think some of you listening to this will understand this. I grew up in a time when, dinner time was 6 o'clock every single night. The only time you had an excuse for not doing it is if you had one of your sports was going on and you had practice during that time. That was the only time you had an excuse not to be at family dinner time, which is 6 p.m. every single night. And as far as I know, everyone in our neighborhood, everybody had to go home for dinner. And it was either 5:30, or 6 o'clock. It was 6 o'clock in our household. And when we got home, we sat down. Our family sat down. There was no TV. Obviously, there was no phones. And we sat. We ate whatever mom made. And we sat down. We had conversation. And that meal would be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, typically about an hour long of just family time, just catching up, just shooting it with the family. Entirely different environment that we see today in when we eat food and when we don't eat food. Most of the time, it is fast as possibly can be, and you kind of get the rest here. So rebalancing, that's where all the fun things will. That's the meditation, that's the breathing process, that's the yoga. All of those must be addressed. And if they're not addressed, or the bigger stressors in your life, and we are not making subtle adjustments, and here's the deal, you don't have to get rid of all the stress in your life. You have to be able to swing the pendulum from sympathetic to parasympathetic. All right, so those are the four. That's the map right there. You got to remove it, you got to replace it, you got to repair it, then you got to rebalance it. So that's the map right there. That is the magical map, and I share that with everyone. That is the map that took me over a decade to understand and to learn, and now to be able to share with doctors around the country. So I'm going to leave you on this note. There's a couple little subtleties here. One, there is some testing you can do, and testing is not necessarily inexpensive, but it can be very, very valuable. You do not have to have it, because I've worked with literally hundreds, if not thousands of people who have not had testing, and the testing can give us some shortcuts, frankly. There's one of the tests that we use called the GI map, and it shows us all kinds of good things. For example, it'll give us our bacterias, our funguses, our parasites, viruses. It'll tell us about inflammation, about absorption, about leaky gut, about immune function. So it gives us all of these key markers to help us know the status and exactly, potentially, if we have a loss. Let's say there are certain things. I mentioned a little bit of a good bacteria earlier called Akkermansia. If you know you're absolutely deficient, that would be one of the probiotics that we would replace. So we could use the testing to speed the process up. Although not needed, but it is certainly beneficial if you have it. With that, there's some add-ons. If you're going to run those tests, make sure you reach out to the office. It's not an inexpensive test, but we want to make sure there's some very specific add-ons. One of them is zonulin. There's a couple others there that we like to see so we can expedite and maximize the benefits, or the knowledge, or the data, I should say, that we're gaining from those tests. We also, food sensitivity tests. Those are okay. I do run a fair amount of them. If we have both, phenomenal. That also gives us a quick observation of things we know we have to remove in the short time, so there's no guessing game. Now, and we helped repair thousands of guts even without food sensitivity tests? Absolutely. So they're not necessarily, but if you necessarily needed, but if you could afford to do a stool test, something like a GI map test with some add-ons in there, beneficial. If you can afford both tests, that and the food sensitivity test, fantastic. Again, they're not cheap, and don't think that you have to have them. But if you could do them, we certainly do recommend them for our patients. If we have that data, it allows us to make our strategy. It really helps us dial in the strategy, and oftentimes what that means to you is expediting the healing process. All right, folks, so that being said, let's do this. We're going to start. Where do we start? So we're going to tie all this together in this next couple sentences here. So where do we start? Not sure if you have a gut issue. Where do you start? First, recognize that healing the gut is a journey. It is a process. So if you're looking for something simple, it's actually not right. If you're looking for easy and cheap, pause, because that's not going to work when it comes to gut health. And that is why you don't see people addressing gut health at the doctor's offices, because there's no real simple easy for it. There's nothing easy and there's no magic drug for it. Number two, get with an experienced practitioner. Period. Get with an experienced practitioner, someone who has walked through this. And this is an area that I learned the hard way. I went here to there to everywhere for over a decade of my life, trying to figure out, or have someone help me figure out how to heal up my gut. So eventually I had to learn the hard knocks way on my own. And now I am sharing that with everyone. But nonetheless, get with an experienced practitioner that knows this path for you, because you're going to run into some roadblocks. You're going to hit some bumps. And your practitioner needs to know those bumps are coming and hold you accountable to staying on course, even though those bumps are coming. If you can test, it's kind of like number three. If you can test and if you can afford the testing, go ahead and do it. Do you need the testing? No. Most practitioners that are experienced in this category, that are working with gut health, can move you through healing up your gut with or without the testing. The testing simply allows us to expedite the whole process. All right. That being said, folks, good job hanging through this entire podcast here. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Keep spreading love. If you think of anyone that you know that has a gut issue, which really means everyone, share this podcast with them. Have them reach out. If we can help you out, we'd love to help you out. With that being said, make sure you're taking deliberate action for your mind, your body, your overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.